Molly is stunned when she sees a shirtless Cody kissing Ava in the Quartermain stables. She rushes out, but he begs her to halt, saying he is doing this for her. Cody finally tells the truth. Cody puts on a shirt and says he was never interested in Ava, revealing that he was paid to be with her. Molly is outraged and calls him a gigolo, but Ava assures her that she will not pay Cody for sex. Cody explains that Christina paid him to take Ava away from Rick. Cody apologizes to Ava, but she says she will deal with him later and storms out. Cody confesses to Molly that this was all Christina's idea, and in the end, he took Rick away from Ava, which was exactly what she wanted. Molly warns him not to do her any more favors and goes away. Christina also reveals the truth. Rick visits Alexis to discuss business, but she is not there. Christina claims his business is truly with her, as she is aware that he is blackmailing her mother for the error she made in cutting his brake lines. Rick lashes out at her, claiming it was not a simple mistake. It was attempted murder, and she should be in prison. Christina understands what she did was bad, and she snapped after going through so much hardship over the last year. Rick informs Molly that she has lost both a child and a sibling. Rick yells and berates Christina. She turns her back on him and takes the letter opener sitting on the desk, clutching it in rage. Christina puts it back down and tells Rick that all he does is pit her and Molly against each other, and she knows Molly would be devastated if she learned not only that she nearly killed him, but also that he is blackmailing their mother. Ava enters and informs Rick that they have both been tricked by Christina, who has been attempting to pit them against each other. As Ava and Christina dispute, Rick informs them that the blackmail game is ended. Was it a death threat? Alexis and Drew meet at the Port Charles Grill. She hopes they can find a way ahead to help Scout. A woman arrives and presents Alexis with papers. She is surprised to find that the congressman has sought a restraining order against her. Drew claims Danny, Rocco, Christina, and Molly are all being served as well. He is aware that she intends to seek custody of Scout and take his daughter away from him. Martin and Laura are eating supper across the room, and he reveals he has turned Drew against him. He informs her that Drew has accused Stella with insurance fraud, all because he despises Curtis. Laura feels bad for Scout being stuck with that man. Martina informs his sister that he and Drew have part ways. She is proud of him, but he fears he will have to continue freeloading at her apartment for a while longer. Martin notices the drama playing out between Alexis and Drew across the room. He reminds his sister that she must defeat Ezra in this election, because otherwise Drew's influence will be unfettered. Drew informs Alexis that Sam wanted Danny to accompany him and Scout, as indicated in her will. Alexis claims this was before she knew Jason was alive. Drew lashes out, saying Danny is much like his violent father. Alexis yells at him to shut up, refusing to allow him blame his horrible behavior on a 15-year-old who misses his sister. Molly shows up to see her mother. Alexis and Drew rage out at each other, and Drew tells Scout that she will never see Alexis again until she is 18, assuming the girl remembers her by then. Alexis threatens Drew that once she's finished with him, it'll be as if he never existed. She informs him that if Scout asks about him, she will tell her that he was a good man, but he will not be present to prove her wrong. Lucas breaks the bad news to Maxie's family at the hospital. Lucas informs Maxie's loved ones that she is in a coma, and that this is not the best place for her anymore. Lucas claims his former hospital in Boston, Mass General, is at the forefront of treating coma patients, and he has arranged for Maxie to be sent there. Spinelli begs Mac and Felicia to not send Maxie away. Felicia inquires about Lucas's trust in the doctors, and whether Maxie will receive the finest possible treatment. Lucas claims that Mass General will provide her with the best care available. Can Brooklyn and Lulu keep the peace? Brooklyn informs Lulu that Felicia has called and Lucas is taking Maxie to a special hospital in Boston. She wants them to bring the children to say goodbye. Lulu immediately contacts Cody, who had just been walked out on by Molly, and tells him he needs to hurry to GH because Maxie and his family need him. Back at the hospital, Spinelli sits with Maxie and tells her that having a second opportunity with her and the kids has been the happiest time of his life, and he needs her to struggle to wake up and return home. Lulu, Brooklyn, the children, and Cody arrive. Spinelli brings Georgie to meet her mother, while Cody comforts James. Lulu and Brooklyn then ask Lucas if they can see her, to which he says yes as long as they don't fight. They promise. The women enter to see Maxie together. Brooklyn informs their buddy that she accomplished it, and they are now together, with Lulu adding that only she could have made this happen. They advise her to rest and not to worry. They'll look after the children and Spinelli. When it's James' turn to see his mother, he definitely feels apprehensive. Cody proposes they go together, claiming he is a little nervous to see her. Mac joins them inside. Mac tells Maxie that he knows she will overcome this and that he loves her. He gives her a kiss on the forehead. After James fractured his arm, his mother gave him his father's police badge to help him recuperate. Now he's giving it to her to aid her. He tells her he loves her. Can Jason get through to Britt? Britt shows up at Jason's room at the Five Poppies. She tells him to leave, but he wants to know what she's doing here. Britt calls him out for flirting with Greta. A piece of your trash. Jason reveals that he was simply working for Greta, who plainly wanted information about him, and that he had already informed her that the WSB was interested in this site. He urges Britt to go with him, promising to take her any place she wants. She cries, saying she can't tolerate looking at him because it hurts and reminds her of home. She instructs him to leave and forget her. He refuses and they approach one another, close enough to kiss. In the final moments of the show, Lucas prepares Maxie to be taken to Boston. Felicia assures her daughter that she is confident she will see her awake and alert soon. Everyone's in tears. In Croatia, Jason informs Britt that he will depart on one condition and hands her a burner phone. He says she can phone him and he'll show up. She urges he not inform Carly and walks away in tears. Molly informs her mother that she should leave the restaurant and get some fresh air. Alexis assures Drew that this is not over, but he swears it is. Martin informs Laura that Alexis should have been more discreet, as threatening. Drew in public is risky. Laura claims she didn't hear anything and Martin laughs. Molly informs Drew that Sam will despise him for doing this, and Scout would hate him as well. He refuses to hear it and walks away. Rick informs Ava at Alexis' house that her spending habits cannot last forever. He discloses that all of the accounts are not only closed, but also empty, including the one she had been surreptitiously funneling money into. Ava demands Rick return her money, but he says he used it to buy $10 million in treasury bonds, which he cannot touch. In 30 days, he'll collect the clean and laundered money and deposit it all into his account. Ava is furious at his betrayal, grabs a marble decorative globe, and whacks Rick over the head. Christina is taken aback as he collapses. Ava holds the globe, which is soaked in Rick's blood. Maxie Jones left General Hospital on Monday, August 25th, for coma care in Boston, while Jason Morgan had a burner phone and a promise for Britt Westbourne. At the Quartermain stables, Cody Bell scrambled to explain the Ava Jerome situation to Molly Lansing Davis, insisting he was doing it for her. Cody mentioned that Christina Corinthos Davis paid him to intervene between Ava and Rick Lansing, so Ava stormed away, intending to deal with Cody later. Molly was unimpressed with Cody's answer and stomped off as well. Christina disclosed to Rick at Alexis Davis's house that she was aware of the blackmail, resulting in a heated argument regarding the cut brakes, the vehicle crash, and the strain Alexis was under. Rick requested Christina be in prison, but Christina shot out at him for constantly causing problems in her relationship with Molly. Christina took up a letter opener and appeared to be about to use it on Rick, but she eventually returned it on the table. When Ava walked in, she chastised Christina for playing her and Rick against each other. Rick eventually stated that the blackmail was done, shocking Ava by revealing that he had cleared out all of the accounts, including her hidden one. Rick also stated that he had purchased $10 million in treasury bonds, so he would have laundered money in a month and left Ava with nothing. In a fit of wrath, Ava snatched a bauble off the table and struck Rick with it, causing him to collapse with a gash on the back of his head. Christina appeared astonished by what Ava had just done. Alexis met Drew Kane at the Metro Court Grill, and was upset when she received a restraining order. Drew informed Alexis that she could not come within 500 feet of Scout Quartermain. Alexis also found that Molly, Christina, Danny Morgan, and even Rocco Falconeri were served with restraining orders. Drew made it clear that Scout would not be able to see Alexis until she was 18, assuming she even remembered who Alexis was by then. Alexis responded that she would pretend Drew didn't exist, and that if Scout inquired about him, she would lie and claim he was a good man. Alexis informed Molly that Drew would not be present to prove her incorrect, so she seemed anxious when she entered and discovered her mother making threats. Nearby, Martin Gray kept Laura Collins up to date on all of the Stella Henry drama, and how he'd made an enemy of Drew. Laura and Martin saw Alexis threaten Drew nearby, but they chuckled and pretended they hadn't heard anything. At the hospital, Lucas Jones informed Damian Spinelli, Felicia Scorpio, and Max Scorpio that Maxie had fallen into a coma, and that JH was no longer the best location for her. Lucas knew Mass General in Boston was at the forefront of coma care because he had previously worked there. Lucas was convinced that Mass General would handle Maxie's condition far better than they could at GH. Spinelli enjoyed a tender moment with Maxie and pushed her to return home to him with the children. Brooklyn Quartermain, Lulu Spencer, Cody, Georgie Spinelli, and James West all came to say their goodbyes. James handed over Nathan West's badge, which Maxie had given him when he shattered his arm. Now James wanted Maxie to have it while she recovered, so Lucas promised to watch over it as Maxie was carried into the elevator. Britt wondered why Jason was still at the Five Poppies resort, but he hadn't yet found what he was looking for. Britt chastised Jason for his date with the Eurotrash, and pretended she didn't recognize Greta's name. Jason said they were merely looking for information from one another. Despite Jason's offer to take Britt any place she wanted, she became emotional about him reminding her of home and once again asked him to go. Britt and Jason appeared to be on the verge of kissing, but they pulled back before they did. Jason finally agreed to attend on the condition that Britt carry a burner phone and call him if she needed assistance. After Jason promised Britt that he would show there if she called, she yelled that he shouldn't tell Carly Spencer and walked out the door. According to General Hospital teasers, Britt's narrative will continue to take unexpected turns, so stay tuned. Maxie never expected to find herself in this situation, but Port Charles had a way of breaking people down until they were forced to make the most difficult decisions of their lives. The air at the hospital was thick with tension as she grabbed her belongings, ready to leave for Boston, where a specialized clinic promised hope to save someone she genuinely cared about, someone hanging to life in a coma after a series of tragedies no one saw coming. Her hands trembled as she closed her bag, and the faint noises of monitors and distant conversations in the hallway made it difficult to breathe. She tried to hold it together for the kids, her friends, and everyone who relied on her for support, but she was breaking apart on the inside. Boston was more than simply another city, and this was no ordinary hospital relocation. This was about believing that the best coma care available could perform a miracle when General Hospital couldn't. The doctors there had a reputation for pulling people back from the brink, but the odds were bleak and Maxie knew it. She'd spent endless nights researching clinics, chatting with doctors, and pleading with anybody who could provide her even the slightest confidence. However, no amount of professional advice could prepare her for leaving behind the life she had created, her support system, and the chaos she had learned to live in. The guilt of leaving everyone behind gnawed at her, especially given the number of crises emerging in Port Charles, but the alternative, doing nothing, was far worse. Jason watched her from a distance, his expression opaque as ever. He didn't say much, but he didn't need to. Maxie was sure he understood. Jason had spent years making tough decisions for himself, sacrificing personal satisfaction for the people he cared about, and he understood the consequences. But Jason had his own troubles to contend with, and his calm, steady demeanor was misleading. Behind the placid demeanor, a tempest was developing, involving Britt, a burner phone, and a plan he hadn't dared to reveal with anybody, including those closest to him. Britt was more to Jason than merely a doctor or someone he previously rescued from Cyrus Renault's clutches. She was someone who understood a side of him that few people did, who remained by his side when others doubted him, and who challenged him in unexpected ways. And now she was in danger. Jason had learned to sense when someone was being hunted, even while the threats weren't loud or evident. Britt had become involved in something bigger than medicine or General Hospital politics, and her life was now in danger. That's why he had a burner phone. It was not about secrecy for the sake of secrecy but for control. Jason required an untraceable channel of communication, something off the grid that Sonny's agents could not intercept and Drew could not influence. Britt had no idea, but Jason was quietly setting things in action, researching the people who were following her, investigating financial traces, and relying on his remaining contacts in the shadows of Port Charles. Every call he made on that burner phone drew him more into a world he thought he'd left behind, but it wasn't about mob fights or territory anymore. This was about Britt, and Jason would not let anyone take her away without a struggle. Meanwhile, Maxie's departure had an impact on everyone who knew her. Spinelli attempted to be strong for her, but his eyes showed his worry whenever she mentioned Boston and the unknowns that lay ahead for them. He wanted to go with her, to be her anchor, but duties kept him in Port Charles, and Maxie demanded he stay behind for the children. Georgie clutched to her, puzzled and afraid, while James tried to put on a brave face, pretending everything was all right while knowing far more than Maxie did. In the midst of it all, Jason's walls were closing in. The inquiry into Sonny's new deals was heating up, and Drew's rising engagement in power dynamics left Jason with fewer allies than ever before. Dante was also hovering, suspicious of Jason's secrets and furious that his old friend refused to reveal anything even as the threat grew. Throughout it all, Jason couldn't shake the sense that he was being observed. Someone knew about the burner phone. Someone had approached too closely. Jason's phone talks with Britt became his sole constant. They started out short, coded updates, silent reassurances, but as the days passed, they grew longer, layered with words they didn't express out loud yet carried deep meaning all the same. Britt's voice cracked once when she told him she was fine, and Jason realized she was lying. She was more afraid than she wanted to admit, and Jason resented that he wasn't with her. He had been gone too long, pushed in too many directions, and if he didn't act quickly, he would lose her. Maxie was confronted with a new challenge when she returned to Boston. The clinic was as advanced as advertised, with professionals whose every action exuded precision and serenity. But seeing the person she came to save laying motionless and hooked up to machines shattered any illusion she had. She sat by the bedside, fingers locked together, mumbling phrases she didn't think anyone could hear. She reflected about all they'd been through, every mistake, joke, and pain, and hoped it wouldn't end this way. Her heart longed for home, the turmoil of Port Charles, and the friends who refused to realize how much they needed her. She thought of Jason, his calm strength, and how he managed to bear everyone's troubles without breaking. She wondered if he'd be okay, if he'd keep himself safe, and deep down she hoped Britt would as well. However, Maxie recognized that Jason had changed. Since his return, there was something in his eyes, a weight he carried that extended beyond Sonny's business or Carly's conflicts. Something haunted him. Back in Port Charles, Britt was unraveling quicker than she wanted anybody to see. The clinic experiments she'd been working on had gotten the wrong kind of attention, and as she tried to keep up appearances, she could feel the net closing around her. She trusted Jason, perhaps more than she should, but his quiet alarmed her almost as much as the threats. The burner phone represented secrecy, which implied peril. Every time it buzzed in her grasp, her heart skipped a beat because she never knew if the next call might change everything. The tension reached a climax one late night when Jason approached one of the men following Britt. The meeting was brief, harsh, and left Jason with more questions than answers. Whoever was after Britt was not acting alone, and it wasn't simply about medical data or pharmaceutical sabotage. There were bigger actors involved, and Jason knew he needed to delve further. But doing so meant jeopardizing everything, even the fragile peace he'd been attempting to keep since coming to Port Charles. As Maxie's stay in Boston progressed, she began to receive snippets of reports from Spinelli about what was going on back home. Rumors of Jason's hidden moves spread swiftly, along with suspicions that Sonny's organization was fracturing. Drew was making bold movements for power, and Britt was somehow at the center of it. Maxie despised being away and not being able to help, but she also knew that for now her fight was in Boston by that bedside, holding on to hope when everyone else was giving up. Meanwhile, Jason couldn't afford to be hopeful. He needed to take action. Every second counted, and every decision had repercussions he couldn't reverse. The burner phone remained his link to Britt, but it also served as a reminder of the danger that loomed above them. Everything changed when he deciphered the code on a hidden message buried within one of the threats. Britt was not only targeted, she was also utilized. Someone wanted to use her knowledge, research, and connections, and they were willing to knock down anyone who stood in their way. Jason's instincts kicked in. He prepared for the eventual showdown, knowing it would put him at odds with Sonny, Drew, and everyone else who believed they had control of the situation. He didn't care. For Jason, it was no longer about allegiance to a group, it was about Britt. And for Britt, every silent call, every hushed caution, every carefully selected word over that burner phone said the same thing. Jason would never let her fall, not this time or ever. But Port Charles has a way of transforming love into tragedy, and trust into treachery. As Maxie faced one uncertain tomorrow after another in Boston, Jason and Britt stood on the verge of a storm that neither of them could stop. Secrets piled up, alliances shifted, and danger approached quicker than they could prepare. What none of them realized was that the connections connecting Boston, Britt's study, and Jason's quiet fight would all come together sooner than anybody expected. And when they did, nothing in Port Charles would ever be the same again.